Welcome back everybody, this is SaladPlaysMC, your favorite TikTok content creator and now YouTube tutorial maker and Twitch streamer. I am today making a mansion. So here are the blocks you are going to need for this if you're making it in survival. These are your house components and these are your roof components. So feel free to pause the video and take notes or take a screenshot. Now if you want to lay your build out first, this is how it's going to look once you lay it out. I choose to do it with different patterns for different areas. And here are the dimensions. So let's get started on the left side garage. What we're going to do for most of this build, especially the exterior components, is we're just going to be using polished granite, and then we're going to try to add a layer of granite above that. Above that, we're going to do 3 layers of white terracotta. Now, what's great about the white terracotta is that it complements with the pink hue really well, and it's also a really nice way to make a contemporary style house. Notice that this is 5 blocks high, and the garage really doesn't need to be much higher. It isn't really supposed to be the main part of the build. We're going to add 1 layer across the top, and then we're going to use jungle planks, and we're just going to build the garage sunken in 1 block. We're then going to add 2 stone buttons, and that will cap off our garage. Now onto the front area of the actual house. We're just going to use the polished granite and white terracotta combo on the bottom again, but we're going to stop it right at those intersection points where it meets the other blocks. The reason we do this is because the rest of the house doesn't require all that granite. We could choose to make the entire frame out of all that granite, but we don't have to, and it depends on what blocks you have the most of if you're doing this in survival. Now, this will be 7 blocks high in total, where our garage was 5 blocks high, so if you need a point of reference, that's a great one, and if you don't, you just know how high this build should be. What we're going to do for the rest of the back of the house is just fill it in with the white terracotta, but you can choose to keep doing that granite thing on the bottom where you're using the polished granite and regular granite. It's up to your discretion, but this is what we're going to start doing. It's good to frame the house before we start adding external things, and that way we kind of have a sense of where we're going with it. Now on the top, we're going to take the oak logs and we're just going to do this and make it 3 blocks high all the way around. This will act as kind of the place where our second level of the house is going to go, but we aren't going to necessarily make it this high. What we're going to do for the area in between the front of the garage and the front of the house is make our little garage side door. What I choose to do here is use smooth stone and then make this little off-center kind of entrance ramp. You can do this with cobblestone or andesite, anything you want works, any gray looking texture. Then make a pillar out of polished granite and granite, frame it with glass panes, add the jungle slabs, and then throw your jungle doors behind it. I like to keep a gap above the door. I think it looks really nice and it has a really good interesting component, and a lot of this build and my builds in general are about feeling open and spacious and airy. So by doing gaps above doors, we actually help to facilitate that feeling. Now above the garage, we're going to do this kind of design for the roof. It's just a 2-2-2 and it meets at the 1. We like to make sure that the roof overhangs by 1 block off of each side of the garage. We're then going to take some sort of slabs, whether it's cobblestone or stone, and we're just going to do this. Then on the back area, we're going to make our back room or storage room, whichever you choose to make it. This is going to be 4 blocks tall in the end. I chose to make it 4 blocks instead of 5 blocks so that it's a little bit lower than the garage. From an architectural standpoint, this is a great way to just make sure the build feels stratified and has different levels. Then you just want to do the same roofing idea, but instead make it one directional. This means going from the side of that little area all the way into the actual building. We're then going to merge it with our other roof, and you'll end up having a lot of points of intersection. You're then going to fill in the top part, and then start working on the windows. For the back window, we're just going to do a 2x2 little hole, and we're just going to add some dark oak trapdoors right on the sides. I choose to make the blocks in the end 1 block above the granite and the windows because what we're probably going to do is place our actual floor blocks at the level of the polished granite, which means that if our windows are above the granite, it will actually enable us to have them 1 block above our floor inside, which if you're adding a bed or anything else will look really good. On the side of the garage, you just want to do a 2x2 window, kind of symmetrically, like this. These are unnecessary components unless you plan on using the garage for things, but I think they do help make the build look better. Now on areas where people can run into the windows or possibly run by them, I like to keep the trapdoors flat against the sides of the windows and the side of the house. I don't like to make them stick out because people could run into them and that's just a pain. We're going to do another window on the back, and on the front we're going to add lights, just like this, using lanterns and iron bars. You can use redstone torches or regular torches if you feel it's necessary. On the front of the house, we're going to start working on our front doors and windows. We're going to do a 2x4 front door with 2x3 windows on both sides. We're then going to add glass panes for the windows and one layer of glass panes above the door, with a layer of jungle slab right below that. We're then going to make our front steps, use the same blocks you used on the garage side door, and then add a dark oak front door. You could also use jungle, but I think the dark oak stands out more, and for a front door you don't want it to blend in too heavily with the house. We're then going to add some lights similar to how we did in the garage, and then for the actual trim on the windows, instead of putting them flat against the wall, we're going to allow them to outstretch. But we're going to do this by stacking the windows 2 blocks against each other like this. So our actual trapdoors will end up making these really thick pillars that we can place another layer of slabs above or place trapdoors above. Then using granite walls and polished granite, we're just going to make a nice little courtyard. On the side right to the right of our front area, we're going to make this little 2x3 window, and then we're going to take our same roofing techniques and make a small overhang. We're then going to take jungle fence, and we're going to do the same idea from the front involving the trapdoors. This will give it a nice layer of support and make it feel like it's really popping out of the building. We're then going to start working on our back porch. I chose to use stone for the base, but it's definitely not the best option. There's plenty of things you can do. You can do planks, you can do stone, cobblestone, anything you want for your back porch. I tend to say stay with either grays or oaky colors. Then for the actual porch area, we're going to do an enclosed porch on this part and on the other end, but we're going to keep the center of the porch open. It's nice to have a mix of open and closed. And the way we're going to actually structure our enclosed area is just like that, using the slabs and the different fencing techniques going up. We're then going to fill in the rest of the porch, and we're going to add fences. You can choose to add walls, but I think fence works better for the open part, where walls work better for the closed part. They just have a different feeling, but I feel like, walls are a little bit more closed off. We're then going to do this same slab technique for the roof on the other side, and we're going to do also the same fence and wall technique for the supporting pillars. For the doors, I like to keep them open and not actually place any actual doors, since this area is already blocked off. I think for big builds like this, it's nice to have large, spacious openings that feel very inviting. By adding lights next to it, it makes it feel like a comfortable place where you can place tables or even chairs later on. You're then going to add 2x3 windows at different points along the wall, but because this is an area where people are going to be walking through rather normally, I would imagine, we don't want the trapdoors to get in their way. So instead of allowing the trapdoors to be outstretched like we were doing on other parts of the build, we're going to place them flat against the wall. This way they don't get in anyone's way. We're then going to add another door on the back side we made, and that will be good for our porch. Now we're going to make the front porch, which is actually standing above the entire build. We're going to use spruce slabs for this, and then we're going to use iron bars as our guardrail. Now iron bars are barbaric, and you can use anything you want, whether it's fence or wall, but I just went with the first thing that came to my head. Then you're going to support it with jungle fence, and you're going to make a little tiny block down for the slabs, just so that the wall actually connects with the porch. You want the supports to feel like they're supporting something. Then do this for the windows and doors, and use glass panes on the top of the door in order to make it feel open. Use the trapdoors to frame the top of each window. Keeping on with the same idea of building windows into the oak logs, we're just going to go add a bunch of random windows kind of throughout the build, and we want to keep it somewhat symmetrical. To a degree, these windows will match up with where the doors and windows are on the actual porch and will be directly above them, and since they are smaller and different size windows, we can actually choose to use different kinds of framing with our trapdoors, and that will be a really great touch. For these, I choose to go back to using our outstretched idea. No one will interact with these windows from the outside, so we don't have to worry about people running into them, and it's a great way to kind of diversify our windows and make the build from the side feel a lot better. Now for the actual roof of this main build, we're doing the same exact thing we did in the garage. What I like to do is make sure I have at least one block overhang on each side of the build. Now, when I say this, it doesn't mean that you have to stay with one block. Should you choose to, like I did, you can actually build the overhang off the front and back of the building 2 blocks. And this way, it'll just be a little bit more drastic, but it'll provide shade for people who might be on the porch. You're then going to use the slabs, and you're going to do something just like this, where you make the trim. It's very simple, and all you have to do after that is fill in the top sections with logs. You're then going to add some lights. You can either do this in the center or off to the sides of the doors. However works. On the back side, you're going to cut a 4x4 hole into the logs, and you're going to use the glass blocks in order to make a bay window. Now a bay window has the center outstretched and the sides tucked in. What we're going to do is just that, and then we're going to use actually slabs in order to frame the tops and bottoms of the bay window, but we're going to use the trapdoors to frame the sides. You don't have to add these extra trapdoors that I add off to the very sides, but I think from far away, they do a really great job of framing the window and making it look very three-dimensional. We're then going to go to where the garage intersects with the house, facing closest to us at the front instead of the back, and we're going to make a 3x3 chimney out of granite. You can use bricks or anything else you want here, but I prefer granite. I do walls on the corners, and then I do a little campfire in the center for smoke. I do the slabs on top, but if you want it to billow out with smoke and look a lot more realistic from far away and have a better feeling, I recommend cutting a hole in the center. Now, to connect the rest of the build, you do whatever you want. I choose to use gravel here and light gray concrete, but looking back on it, I would actually recommend using a darker concrete or even a cayenne terracotta, something smooth for the driveway, but darker than what I did. I also think that when you're making this build, it's not necessary to connect the gravel to both parts of the doors, so instead just connect the gravel to the driveway and keep that front garage door kind of open. It's already connected to the driveway, you don't need to worry about it. The most important thing you'll do though is adding leaves, trees, and different organic things around the build to make it feel done. Once you do that, you are complete with the build, and you have made a successful mansion. I appreciate you guys watching this. Thank you. I hope you learned something from the tutorial, and stay tuned for more tutorials. Go watch my TikToks and stay up to date on my streams.